It's not necessarily about feeding your team all this information. It's really just about controlling your teammates.
On S&D especially being a wake-up call for OpTic.
I just don't know how you do that after getting top 3 and making that run.
Welcome back to another episode of Contesting the Point. I'm your host, Jess Brohard, and today we have two very, very special guests. First off, we have my friend Chance returning from last episode. He won last time, so we're going to see if he can go 2 for 2 today, or if he is going to be dethroned by none other than the bald Dashy himself, Maven. So Chance, Maven, how are you both feeling today, first of all?
I'm doing fantastic. I argue with Joe every day about Call of Duty. I'm not worried about arguing with Budget Merc.
Am I supposed to respond to that immediately? Budget? No, my nickname is Budget Revan. I will accept no other nicknames in the CDL, whatever it's going to be. But no, it's going to be a good time. If I get sniped by bald Dashy, it happens. He does stuff like that every day.
Woo! Budget Revan. I gotta say, I've actually not heard that one, but I can see the fangs are already coming out. For those watching at home, you guys know the drill. I'm going to present a topic. There's going to be 3 topics total. Each of these gentlemen is going to have 60 seconds to argue that topic. Then there will be a rebuttal phase, and then we will award points, or rather, I will award points for the most convincing argument. And then one of these guys is taking home the golden headset because Contesting the Point is powered by Astro Gaming. So our first topic, we're going to talk a little bit about Arcitys. He's coming from the Chicago Huntsmen, which came 3rd in the inaugural CDL season. Now he's with Atlanta FaZe. Is his leadership what FaZe need to take their raw talent to the next level? Will he lead them to victory? What does the future hold for the Atlanta FaZe? I think Chance, since you won the last episode, we're going to start with you. 60 seconds on the clock starts now.
Well, for what it's worth, I don't think FaZe was necessarily lacking anything. The players they had are disgusting, but Arcitys is a player that sort of kicks them up just that extra notch where they go from the best team in the game to even more dominant, and they look like a nightmare. Like, I think the main role of like the in-game leader thing that Arcitys has, it's not necessarily about feeding your team all this information. It's really just about controlling your teammates. Like, you have the Tiny Tears plus Cellium. That is the 3-headed like hound of hell Cerberus. He just needs to keep him in line, right? If the comms get too finicky, try to calm him down. And because he has this like experience with these players, he won a world championship with 2 of these guys. He's one of the best possible people to know their tendencies, to know when maybe they're getting a little bit nervous or getting ahead of themselves or need to slow down. He is the perfect guy to work with these guys in and out of game, perfect for the vibes, perfect for just sort of like that personality management aspect of the team. And on top of that, he's an insanely good player, one of the most respected assault rifle players in the league. He's honestly the perfect package. He is the peanut butter to their chocolate. You couldn't ask for a better AR to play with the guys.
Chance, you know, you actually ran a little bit over. It seems like you learned from last episode and made it last a little bit longer this time, which is, you know, pluses and minuses there. That was a very convincing argument, but Maven, 60 seconds on the clock. Your time starts
I
now.
agree with a lot of what Chance said. I mean, heck, you might have seen my Roster Mania video about FaZe. When Arcitys joined, I had no doubt they were going to be the best team in the game. He is a massive piece for them, but I do think it's a bigger picture. Chance kind of touched on the fact that they already had a really good squad. They may have already had the best squad. They got to the most finals last year. The bigger picture for me is the culture shift, and a lot of you know I'm close to Crowder. If you watch my personal stream, I play with him every day. He would be exhausted sometimes coming out of scrims last year. Like, just frustrated. The comms, the energy levels, the focus would just be really bad with some of the players. They'd just be trolling half the time, and he'd be pissed off. Start of this year, he said, I'm done with the bullshit. He locked it down. They focused on the fundamentals, and just between him and RJ, there's been an absolute culture shift with their preparation in scrims. And I think as big as a piece as aLLeY is, and as talented as he is, that shift is why they are playing so consistent. This isn't 5v5. This isn't the jetpack era. It's 4v4 boots. And whoever's going to limit their mistakes and play the most sound Call of Duty is going to win, especially when you have the level of talent they do. So it hasn't been about their playmaking ability for them at their core. It's about making the right plays, and making the right rotations, making the right decisions as often as they can. And I think that culture shift internally is everything.
Also a very convincing argument. You know, I took my eyes off the clock. I don't even know how long that lasted. Feels like you also had a very, very lot to say there, which is always good. But now we're going to just kind of take the clock thing out of it and Give me your rebuttals. Argue amongst each other.
Well, I mean, frankly, for Maven, I just think he just added to my argument. He had more time to sort of like add to the thing of Arcitys is just a great fit for the team. If it's a culture shift that needs to happen, and again, it's like the vibes thing, right? If you need to be less trolly in practice, Arcitys is going to be one of the perfect guys because he's been friends with them before to know when like, okay, we actually need to have a little bit of fun now. This is an important scrim where we control. Or right before we win the entire tournament, go for the assassination on the final guy and have a little bit of fun. He is the perfect guy to sort of manage the reins for the team. He knows when to rein him in. He knows when you can let him have fun. And he just works so well with the guys that, again, if they were already the best team in the game last year, at least in terms of series count, now they have that extra little bit to make sure you get the tournament wins too.
See, I guess where we'll kind of disagree is I think if they had this culture there last year, they're winning everything. Like, they don't have these issues. And you kind of heard Alec in an interview after they won, and he said, I didn't really have to do much. Like, these three are running around and frying. And I think if the culture was the way it was last year and you plugged Alec into that team, his value would be even more. But due to that shift internally, yeah, he's important. There's no way to argue he's not. He's one of the best players in the game. I just don't think it's the most important piece here. I don't think it's the biggest piece of why they're seeing success. So I think that's where we disagree. I just think there's a whole lot more to it, and Arcitys is not the most important piece of that.
I mean, I'm just saying, if your argument is that it's a culture shift, again, the player that makes sure that you can keep that culture in line and like have that management.
He's not the one leading the shift.
It's like
he's not the one leading the shift.
Simultaneous points.
He
might not be making a shift. It might be a coaching staff thing, but like how many different players could you fill into that slot that like with those guys, especially if they didn't even want to team them? Like if Arcitys is that guy for them, the culture is going to collapse if you don't have a team that's all on the same page. And maybe there are like what, maybe 2 or 3 other players in the league that you could think could fill in the role for Arcitys. No one's going to do it better than him.
I disagree in the sentiment that I think that three-headed dragon, as you called him, you could fit just about any player in the goddamn league in that spot. And with their current form and the way they're playing, they'd be fine. Arcitys doesn't hurt, obviously. He helps the team. He's incredible. But that triple threat is so good, and they are so locked in on the fundamentals right now, I don't know how much it matters.
I mean, it might not matter to you, but when I hear the interview of aBeZy talking about teaming with Arcitys again, or maybe it was Simp, but nothing but positive vibes from the team. If they are giving Arcitys credit, they are going to know more about the role that he plays for the team than I am. So if they're giving him the credit, and it looks like that from the outside looking in, I have to imagine he was the most important factor for not even their turnaround, just that extra bump in success that they're going to have.
All right. I'm going to cut off the arguments here. Beautifully said. The one thing I do have to point to is exactly what Maven said, which you pointed to that interview that we did with Arcitys, and he kind of wouldn't let me give him the credit for stepping up into that leadership role. And overall, I gotta say, 10 points for Maven and 8 points for Chance. Beautifully argued, both sides, but I think we gotta move on to our second topic. We're gonna look at OpTic Chicago. And now they were a favorite to win the first major, but a few mishaps in the form of the New York Subliners happened. The Subliners actually swept OpTic 3-0, giving OpTic a 4th place finish. I mean, what's going on with them? What do they need to change to return to their glory days? Maven, since you won the first topic, we're going to tee you up for the first presenter this time. 60 seconds on the clock. Starts now.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of double down on what I was talking about with the culture of FaZe right now and how important fundamentals are when you get back to 4v4 boots on the ground Call of Duty. I think we've seen a lot of inconsistencies with just about every team outside of FaZe. Yeah, I know they've been pushed the distance a couple of times, but fundamentally they've been very sound. You just think about someone like an OpTic, 100 Thieves, even Empire, like these top teams have a chance to win a major. Sometimes you watch them and you think, oh, this is a team that can win it all. Sometimes you watch them and you think, what the hell are these guys doing on the map right now? And I think FaZe have set themselves up in a position when you're playing that way and playing the correct way, that even when your guns aren't hot, we talk about how streaky Call of Duty can be, even when your guns aren't hot, you still can be in a position to win. And I feel like right now, a lot of the other teams, OpTic included, when you aren't playing particularly well, you're going to lose. They need to get past that, and yes, does that have to do with preparation and more focus in practice? There's a lot to go through it, but there are a million different takes you can have here, but I think that's step one.
Perfectly timed. All right, Chance, your turn. 60 seconds on the clock starts now.
I honestly don't really have fear for OpTic in terms of like not having success, not winning a tournament. I think they're in a decent spot. Like you talk about a culture shift maybe that this team needs, but when I watch their gameplay, it's clean. Their respawn is as good as it gets. And maybe not to the point where they're dominant and are going to be 100-point clubbing every team in the game, but to be able to get consistent wins, they're going to be able to accomplish that. Their teamwork is incredible. 4v4 seems great for them. The players even look incredible in their roles. I think the biggest concern I would have for them would be the search and destroy. Even then, they're right about 50-50. But I would say what we saw from FaZe this weekend, the nightmarish performance they had in Search and Destroy where they were just dominant, that should be the wake-up call to the rest of the league. And OpTic is at the top of the list of hey, the Search and Destroy might be good, but we are far from being able to take them down. So if we want to win a tournament and that best of 9 is 4 S&Ds, you're going to have to kick that up a notch. So the culture shift for Respawn, at least, exactly where it needs to be there in a good spot. But for Search and Destroy, grind time is here.
You just talked to me, hold up, you just talked to me about how important Arcitys is.
Yes.
And you let Arcitys go, and you bring in Dashy. Now Dashy, we could argue he's the best flex of the game. The man has been frying. But Dashy's comms are basically, I'm frying. There's a guy over here. He does not have the intangibles that iLLeY does. So that's why I think the culture is so important there, that they really have to be so good in preparation. Because you do lose something in in-game leadership and kind of in those pressure moments when you lose someone like Arcitys. If you're going to talk to me about his value and how important he is, when you lose him and bring in Dashy, do you think that's 1-for-1 with those intangibles?
Well, again, dude, you're talking about culture for a team. You need a player to mesh with Simp, aBeZy, and Cellium well. Arcitys is the top pick for that. If you're looking at a guy that needs to mesh with T2P, Formal, and Scump, Dashy is the perfect guy for that. They do different things. One of the best things you could ever have with Scump and Formal is having that third guy in the background constantly calling out, dead, dead, I'm frying. You just have that dominance because you don't need the intangibles. If Envoy is one of the guys on your team, you don't need that more cerebral, big brain calling out spawns. Dashy, that does not need to be his role at all. He's there for the vibes. He's there for the slaying power. He brings both to the max.
That was another beautiful argument. Overall, I really chanced to go back to something you said about the Atlanta FaZe's performance on S&D, especially being a wake-up call for OpTic where they need. I really love that. Beautiful. That was delectable. I'm giving you 10 points for your argument there. Maven, great argument still. 9. How about 9 points? 9 points. You're very close to Chance, but just step it up a little bit for next time, which is our final topic. We're going to look at the New York Subliners. They're essentially a new roster with Asim filling in after Zuma had to retire, and then Diamondcon stepping up from the academy team when Hydra had visa issues and was stuck in France. So they stumbled a little bit at the beginning, but they are just absolutely on fire now. Is that because Asim is tearing it up out there, or are they finally falling into place and figuring out that team chemistry? I think, Chance, since you won the last argument, we're going to go ahead and tee up 60 seconds on the clock for you to start whenever you are ready, except no, it's going to be now.
Oh, Maven, not Maven. New York Subliners. I mean, their reason to success, it's not just Asim. He's absolutely a factor in. Go away, Maven. Asim has been disgusting, but so has Diamondcon at times at the very least, and so is Mack. They have all stepped up, and Clayster especially, at least through Super Week, one of the best players in the game. He looked like on a player front, they're there. On a coaching front, they're absolutely there. The series they had against OpTic, one of the most interesting things, it was the first time they had played Crossroads and the first time they had played Garrison S&D out of nowhere, tournament time, and they fried on both of them and had a game plan. I just think this team right now is in an incredibly good spot. They had, a month and a half, 2 months of practice. They're dealing with Zoomer's retirement, and they're still having this level of success. You gotta let that ride, man, and see where it can go, because even for a player like Diamondcon, he is fresh to the league. This was his first major, and he just plays top 3. That's incredible, but he still had some hyper inconsistent maps and performances. You smooth those things out. I mean, the sky's the limit for this team. They look great across all game modes. They have a nice bag of tricks. I want to see how far they can go with this core 4 players.
I think I will probably agree, and that was probably one of the better stories, the better runs that we had at the tournament. The one thing that was super unexpected outside of maybe the Gorillas win, and I tend to agree with you that, yeah, you got top 3, you got to let it rock, but I guess it boils down to a couple of things for me. One, who's making the decisions for the team, because we've had stuff in the past, like you saw with Ultra. There were some team changes happening that the players maybe didn't want, but management was in control of that. I don't know if Clay's making the calls or management are, but I would imagine Clay's probably leading that front, at least I would think so. And then the biggest thing, I guess, if it is Clay's choice, if you are Clayster, do you think you can win a tournament with this team? And that is the question. And I don't know the answer to that, because Clay's been around a long time. That guy doesn't want to compete if he doesn't think he can win. And I'm not close to Hydra, but I know all the hype behind Hydra. if you do think that maybe your ceiling is higher with Hydra, then I guess it's something that is up for consideration. But I just don't know how you do that after getting top 3 and making that run. But at the same time, as impressed as I was, am I convinced that is a team that can win a tournament? I'm not.
Well, we're basically just like agreeing here. I get that. And Maven's correct. The important question is whether or not they can win a tournament. But like, we just had stage 1. They were the least practiced team, maybe outside of Ravens, who had even more like issues with Visa, whatever it was going to be. But they just had top 3. They were incredible. It's a 5-stage event before we get to champs. Like, you could take another tournament or 2 to see where your peak is going to be. You could take a couple more performances. Like, wait till you see how you stack up against Atlanta FaZe the next time you play against them, because that's the big question for me. Whatever team you're matching up against the finals, you know search and destroy is going to be a factor. If FaZe just keeps popping off against everybody, then a couple teams might need to think about a change. But for right now, I just think you would be a maniac to make that call for New York to switch anything right now. You got to give it more time and see how well these players can flourish. And maybe what, a month or 2 months, you can go back to the reevaluation table.
Yeah, I think I saw, I think it was JP's tweet, you know, part of the coaching staff there with Revan, and I think he said their first practice with the full squad, I think, was January 19th. I might have that date wrong, but compared to everybody else preparation-wise, you're absolutely correct. They didn't have as much time to get ready to go, and that's what makes this run even more incredible. So, yeah, I agree with you. I guess you got to stick it out and see how you can go. You have Hydra lying in wait in case you want to throw him onto the map, but I guess I'm glad I'm not the one that has to make these decisions. It can't. I don't know. I guess I don't know if it's easy or it's hard, because it really just boils down to that one thing. Your Clay, do you think he can win?
Honestly, both of you guys, I loved those arguments. I liked, Maven, that you maybe had some reservations about how far the Subliners can go with this current roster. But overall, I mean, you both were pretty candid with me. I loved it. Flawless, 10 out of 10, 10 points for both of you. Which means that if we total up the point tallies, I believe that leaves Maven with 29 and Chance with 28. So close that I makes this week's winner of Contesting the Point, powered by Astro Gaming, Maven, aka Bald Dashy. All right, 60 seconds to pop off in our Astro Listen Up moment. What do you have to say to the people?
All right, to every team that's not FaZe, even FaZe every now and then, we're back to our roots. And for Joe's sanity, I need everyone to forget the bad habits and really start to focus on the fundamentals, because if I see numbers thrown away or just the situations where you're set up with a perfect hold on a hard point that gets blown, like the sheer volume of mistakes we're seeing made on the map is, I think, making Joe go bald. And then if we're both bald, that creates a problem, because it's okay if like one commentator's bald, but like imagine both of us, like that would just be horrific. So that can't be a thing. And like he's been getting so frustrated. I mean, Merc's one of the greatest Call of Duty players of all time, and like watching some of the gameplay has literally been driving him insane. And I know it's like you got to forget like several years of habits based on 5v5 and how different games play out, but it's back to the fundamentals. I talked about it this entire episode. I think it's the single most important thing this year, and I think FaZe have gotten there first. Yes, they have the talent too, but I think they've gotten the fundamentals down a little bit better than everybody else. And then the other side of it, homework and search and destroy. FaZe is far and away the best team there. Usually, team starts out hot, everyone can do their homework, and there's like a catch-up process. Well, that better start now, because they've set the bar, and they've set the bar very goddamn high.
All right, well, that does it for this episode of Contesting the Point, powered by Astro Gaming. Thank you so much, Chance, Maven. Congratulations, Maven, on winning this episode. For those of you watching at home, be sure to catch the next home series, which will be the Toronto Ultra Home Series, taking place March 18th through 21st. You do not want to miss this one. We'll see you there.